Looks like with the gunfire still being heard, something is still happening.
Oh yes, he said it himself. He said that there's still some criminals, as you call them, who are holed up in the building, and the operation is still going on, and the security forces are going to bring the thing to its finality. So it shows that it is a big team of people. It's not just one or two fighters.
All right, and calling for calm, but it's a difficult thing when, you know, every so often an act of terror in areas that you would hope to be safe appear to be vulnerable at key moments.
Yeah. So with act of terror, the first thing that the security forces do is that they don't go and fight the terror. They isolate the place, they surround it, and then they actually check that no other groups are outside who can come in. And once they've secured the group, the area, that's when they move in. So now they are moving in, but I don't know why they're taking so long, because I think if that's a hotel, what they could do, they would have security cameras, and they could just go to the control room and check it room per room and actually sort of direct the fighters as they're going on. Maybe that the terrorists, they know everything. They've actually sort of isolated the security cameras. Yeah. So
all right. Okay, I mean, very, very scary. And this is a developing story. And I'd like you to stay with us for the time being, because clearly every time an attack happens in this part of the world, and Kenya is known for its tourism, the threat of attacks such as this could take a toll on the country's tourism sector. Kenya's many natural attractions, and tourists continue to visit the area, and this despite being under the official traffic warning list, travel warning list by several countries, including the US. Let's talk now to Sonobile Henama, who's a tourism analyst at the Tshwane University of Technology. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the program. These images certainly are not going to help Kenya continue to get its tourists to visit their country.
These are very, very bad news for Kenya. Kenya has been working very hard to promote its tourism industry. It has also been using its airport to become a regional hub. And unfortunately, whenever such things occur, the major source markets will always issue a travel warning, which has got a negative impact on tourism arrivals. And furthermore, Peter, we always speak about what we call the neighborhood effect. This impact will have an impact in other African countries as far as South Africa, because sometimes tour operators, when they look at Africa, they say Africa is one country, which is unfortunate. And obviously, this might have a negative impact, especially for South Africa, which has got a known negative image on personal safety and security.
And also that it happens in a hotel that tourists stay in. The place that they would want to feel safest when they travel is seemingly the most vulnerable.
Well, terrorists always target where the tourists are. I call it the TT. The terrorists always attract the terrorists. And they always do this, obviously, for ideological reasons, but most importantly, because they know that if you do it at a major international hotel where international guests are involved, it will get international media attention. And then their message of terrorism would go everywhere else in the world. So in other words, it means, Peter,
on your mouth. You cannot.
No, there's nothing in your mouth. What happens, Peter, in tourism destinations? If you attract tourists, ensure that you improve your security, because the terrorists always seek tourism areas. So that means that our tourism meccas like Sun City, Brooklyn, such as...
All right, so Nobile, I'm just wondering, there have been a number of terror attacks in Kenya over the years, but somehow the tourists keep on coming. Does at some point people just start to say, okay, enough is enough?
Well, Peter, in the world where terrorism has been involved, find that is a issue of crisis-resistant tourism is ever However, since September 11, people coming from Europe, America, they know that terrorism is a daily threat. Even though it occurs not as many times in Africa compared to Europe, but it's also, unfortunately, and the mindset in problem Africa is Kenya, which is one of the best.
All right. So, as you were saying, that this will have far-reaching implications, not just for the region there, but for us as well. What do the countries in the region do as a collective, perhaps, to I don't know, encourage tourists to come through and create a sense of some kind of safety?
I think the most important thing, Peter, is that these countries must indicate that they are on the ground, they are dealing with the terrorists, and Kenya and the entire region is open for business. They must obviously show commitment as the entire government that we are chasing the terrorists, we are investigating, but they must communicate all the time. They must continually communicate their progress with this case.
And no doubt we'll probably see some more travel warnings after this attack today.
Unfortunately.
All right, so Nabila, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. That's a tourism expert talking to us from the Tshwane University of Technology. Prof, tourism, it just, I guess, another one of those casualties as a result of these kinds of things.
Oh, yes. I think the Al-Shabaab people are doing just like what the other terrorists are doing in Egypt, attacking the tourist industry. But now Kenya is a bit lucky. Kenya is lucky because the economy is a bit diversified, unlike other African countries. Yes, they do depend upon tourism to a large extent, but then they've also got the agricultural side and agro-industrial manufacture, which is also big. And then they've got the service industry, which is based around the banking. So basically, tourism will get affected and the hoteliers will get affected. In one of the last attacks, the hoteliers, they suffered because the hotels, they went empty for some time. And again, with the tourist industry, basically, Kenya is a hub, but you find that most of the tourists, they tend to go southwards, towards the Mara Game Reserve, also into the Serengeti and into the Kilimanjaro area. So the tour operators, basically, they may suffer, but there are areas of work. Some of the areas of work is in Tanzania. So that, I think, is quite safe.
Should we have heard from the president by now? Because this situation has been in play for a while, or is this protocol that...
No, it's not protocol. In fact, the president is supposed to have come in, long come in. Yeah, the president is long supposed to have come in and actually talk to assure the Kenyans that everything, that he's in charge, the government is in charge, and also that to keep them calm, and also to organize the forces, to coordinate the forces which are there, be it the police, be it the medical forces, be it the intelligence, and things like that. So basically, the silence of Uhuru Kenyatta, it's telling.
All right, you talk about intelligence, and we know, you said that the timing is what we should look at. Do they not have intelligence services, or how is it that they are missing some of these key moments?
Kenya does have an intelligence service, but you can find the intelligence service is not up to scratch. Yeah, otherwise they should have been able to penetrate that element of their Somali community. But then you find that there is this animosity between the Kenyan Somalis and the government, people in power. Otherwise, had it been a much more cohesive force, they would have long been able to infiltrate those groups, as it is in Tanzania. In Tanzania, the intelligence there, they've got people right into the mosques, so that even the preachers or even the organizers are being kept, they've got a close tag on them, to the point that the Tanzanian terrorists, the Al-Shabaab terrorists, former Al-Shabaab fighters, they've moved to northern Mozambique because things are too hot for them in Tanzania. because they've got the intelligence right at the ground level.
It must be a concern that, you know, this amount of weaponry can be moved in the middle of a city.
No, I don't think it's not a big job.
It's not a big job?
No, it's not. I mean, to say weaponry even moves through this thing. I mean, first of all, they will tell you, I mean, to say that talking to Somali friends, and these are Somali friends who come from southern Somalia. The Al-Shabaab is active in southern Somalia. It's not active in all the whole of Somalia. And there are many people who come from southern Somalia. And funny enough, people from southern Somalia, the majority of southern Somalians are Bantu Somalis. They are African Somalis. So we've got quite a number of them here, and we talk to them. They say the Somalis, when they move that amount of weaponry, at times they just tie the things to cattle. And they move the cattle from one area to another area. But there are certain cattle in the middle of the herd where they've got loads tied to them on the underside. And that's how they get across the country.
So what is the end game for these militants?
Well, the end game for the militant, they are not there to actually fight for a specific military goal. That's where people go wrong. Yeah, with terrorists, you try to actually destabilize and have an atmosphere of instability, yeah, from where opportunities will come up. That's what is happening in Afghanistan. Yeah, that's what's happening in all places where there's a long time sort of terrorist activity. I mean, if you look at the way the FIS was operating from in Algeria, after they'd been defeated, they kept on. It took the Algerian intelligence and also security forces a long time before they were able to expel the FIS, that's the terrorist organization, and they moved down towards Mali, yeah. But then again, with that, it took the FIS itself to break, to splinter, where there was a group which went and actually had a treaty with the government. So this is a protracted struggle, as they call it. It's a protracted struggle.
You say that, you know, they look for opportunities, but they would make demands, surely, of the Kenyan authorities. We want you to do X, Y, Z, or don't they?
Well, they don't make demands. I mean, their demands are well known. I mean, to say that the Somali population, I mean, to say the Al-Shabaab, it's well known. The Al-Shabaab in Kenya, unlike that in Somalia, it's a bit different. In Kenya, they're more of a terrorist group which is linked to the separatist group. You see, the terrorist organizations like in Somalia, they operate in areas where they've got a majority Muslim population, as in Somalia. There they can make demands. They can say that we want to establish the caliphate, yeah? And with the caliphate, we want to actually spread a certain type of interpretation of the religion, which is taking place in Somalia. Yeah, Somalia, basically Kenya, Somalia, Tanzania, East Africa, those were the Qadiriya Muslims. They are Sunnis, but they're Qadiriyas. But then you find that with the Al-Shabaab, they are offshoots of the Salafiyah or the Wahhabis. And now they want to bring in the Wahhabist mode of religion in Somalia. That's the thing that they won't be able to do it in Kenya. The Kenyan Muslim population is big, but it's not in the majority. So they will not be able to make demands. But the demands in Kenya, it is the dissatisfaction of the Somalis wanting the greater Somalia. Yeah? They actually sort of, it comes from there, the thing that the Somalis are marginalized. They want to break out and form the northwest region into Somalia. But the northwest region, basically, that's the region of the Boranas. Each and every town, each and every village in the northwest of Kenya, the name of those areas, they're not Somalis, they're Oromo. And the Boranas are Oromos. And you get Oromos in Kenya, right into Wajir, right up to Moyale, right into Ethiopia. Yeah, so the Somalis, their claim that northwest frontier is part of their land, basically that's, it's a claim where the other people have got more claims. Same with the Tana Valley. If you go to British statistics from the 1900s, 1910, you find that the Somali population was very thin in the Tana River area, but now it's heavy. Yeah, these are Somali herdsmen who have moved south, yeah, from Somalia, and they've become resident in those areas. So the claim of wanting a autonomous state, you know, yeah, it is just...
All right, we're going to carry on talking, but for our viewers who've literally just switched on their television sets and are seeing these scenes, this is Nairobi in Kenya. A few hours ago, 2 explosions were heard in a upmarket area, Westlands, where the Dulcet Hotel on Riverside Road was seemingly the target of attackers. They forced their way through the front of the hotel using grenades, and a gun battle, it seems, or shootings, it seems, incessant for more than 90 minutes initially. And the Kenyan Special Forces moved into the building, and they're now trying to contain the situation and also flush out those people that have been described as criminals by the Inspector General of Police. Our reporter on the ground, Sarah Kimani, our correspondent there, managed to sneak into the building, and she said she was able to see 5 bodies that looked dead, and some were dismembered, and that would explain the grenades probably, and that they were hunched over in the places that they were sitting, appearing to have been eating or having lunch or something like that. So what we know for sure is that 5 fatalities. We know that the shootings continue as the special forces inside the building are looking for the attackers. The number of attackers is unknown. The militant group Al-Shabaab, who hail from Somalia, claiming responsibility for this particular attack, and the police again working very hard, as they said, to try and bring some normalcy to this situation. The police, Inspector General of Police a short while ago telling Kenyans to remain calm. The President has not yet spoken or made an official statement regarding this particular incident at this stage, but it looks as if it's starting to get dark in Nairobi in Kenya. This situation is more than 3 hours long now, and it's still a situation in play as we continue to update that story. Prof. Khomo, we were talking about Al-Shabaab. They've claimed responsibility for this. Are there recognized leadership structures inside Kenya that sometimes speak from locations?
No, Al-Shabaab basically, the Kenyan Al-Shabaab is centered in Somalia. The ones in Kenya, they're offshoots, although they do have an organization structure. And where Al-Shabaab is very strong in Kenya, and where it's strong in places outside Somalia, it's not within the cells, the terrorist cells, but it's there with the economic centers. Al-Shabaab is very strong in Kenya, and where the strength lies, basically it lies in the economic activities that are there. If you go to Isli, quite a number of those shops and businesses there, they've got Al-Shabaab links. And fun enough, right up to South Africa. South Africa is a very important economic area for Al-Shabaab. That goes without saying. But they're not interested in actually sort of turning this into a area of operational area. But they do have their cells here, even armed cells. There are people who are sleeping cells who are here. They are collected from South Africa, some of them taken to Ethiopia, taken to Somaliland for such activities. It's like what you call the other widow, in the last attack of Westgate, the people who came from South Africa.
Will the international community, allies of Kenya, be watching with concern the developments that are taking place today?
Oh yes, they're doing so. And the people who are really on top of the game when it comes to the international community, it is the MI16, the British, MI6, sorry, not MI16, Ministry of Intelligence, MI6. The MI6, they are following the Al-Shabaab very, very closely. And with that, they've also got Somalis who are working for them. It's not even done by the British. In fact, they're much more versed with activities of Al-Shabaab in South Africa than the South Africans. I'm sorry to say so, but that's the truth.
All right. Okay. Professor Khomo, I want you to stay with us. We're now joined by our foreign